My girlfriend said, I want kids eventually, but you're not father material yet. I replied, what would make me ready? Then she gave me a list of requirements. New car, bigger house, $1 million salary. When I realized she was just a gold digger, I didn't even get mad at first. I just felt this weird hollow thud in my chest like someone had knocked the wind out of me and forgot to tell me why. And maybe that's because this came from Emily, my girlfriend of almost 2 years, the woman I genuinely thought I was building a life with, the woman whose coffee order I knew by heart and whose mom I helped move last summer without complaining, the woman I had quietly started picturing as the mother of my kids. And yeah, I know how that sounds now, but hindsight is undefeated. So let me rewind to the night it actually happened, because that's where everything cracked open. We were at this Italian place downtown, not fancy, but nice, dim lights, soft music, the kind of place you go when you want to talk without rushing. And she got that look halfway through dinner, the serious one, lips pressed together, eyes scanning my face like she was lining up a shot. And she said, we need to talk about our future. And I remember smiling like an idiot because I thought, okay, this is it. We're on the same page. I want kids someday too. Not right now, but someday. I've always been clear about that. So when she followed it with, I want kids eventually, but you're not father material yet, my brain actually stalled out for a second, like it couldn't parse the sentence fast enough. And I said, what? And she immediately waved her hand like I was already overreacting. Don't get defensive. I'm just being honest, which in retrospect should have been my first clue that this was going to be bad. Because whenever someone starts with that, honesty is usually the last thing coming. She leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms, and said there were things I needed to work on before she could seriously consider marriage and kids with me. And I sat there completely confused because on paper my life is boring in the best way. I'm 32, steady job, no debt, decent savings close with my family, paid off car, clean apartment, no drama, no chaos. And I asked her genuinely, calmly, okay, help me understand what would make me ready. And that's when she pulled out her phone. And I swear to God, she had notes open, like bullet points, like she'd been rehearsing this presentation. First thing was my car. She said my Toyota was fine for now, but a father needs something safer, something bigger, preferably a luxury SUV because safety matters, and appearances matter even if she didn't say that part out loud. Second thing was my apartment, which she called starter level. She said we need at least a 4-bedroom house in a good school district, and she'd already been looking at listings in the $700,000 to $900,000 range, like this was a casual Zillow hobby and not my entire financial future. And then she dropped the last one, the big one, salary. She said I make good money, but not enough for the lifestyle she wants for her family, and that ideally I should be making 7 figures. Maybe move into management or start a business on the side if I was serious about providing. And I actually laughed at first because I thought she had to be joking, but she wasn't smiling. And when I asked, you want to make over $1 million a year? She tilted her head and said, is that really unreasonable? And then compared me to her friend's husband like I was a faulty appliance that needed upgrading. The waiter showed up with dessert, and I couldn't even look at it. My appetite was gone. My hand was shaking just enough that I noticed, and I said, so let me get this straight. You want me to buy a $70,000 car, an $800,000 house, and somehow multiply my salary by 10 before you'll consider me worthy of being a father? And she got annoyed, not embarrassed, not apologetic, annoyed, like I was intentionally misunderstanding her. Why are you making it sound so bad? She said, I'm just being practical. Kids are expensive. Don't you want the best for our future children? And that's when it clicked. This wasn't about readiness or responsibility. This was a price list. So I asked her how long she'd been planning this, and she said a few months like that was normal, like she hadn't spent months evaluating me as a fixer-upper project. And that's when resentment I didn't even know I had started surfacing, because the truth is, while she was drafting her requirements list, I'd been quietly covering more and more of our expenses. Her career transition meant I paid her rent for 4 months. Her car needed repairs. Her credit card balance stressed her out, so I sent her $3,000 to help her get ahead of the interest. We were supposed to be 50-50, but lately it was more like 80-20, and I asked her, finally, what are you contributing to this plan beside my to-do list? And she looked offended, genuinely offended, and said, I'm going to be raising the children. Being a mom is a full-time job, which might have landed differently if we actually had kids, but we didn't. And what she really meant was that my role was to provide and her role was to benefit. And I paid the bill, drove her home in silence, and she seemed weirdly satisfied, like she'd give me homework and expected a gold star next time we talked. And for the next 3 days, I couldn't stop thinking about it, replaying the conversation, noticing patterns I'd ignored, how she never offered to pay anymore, how she forget, her wallet, how she got upset when I suggested cooking at home because we deserve nice things, how she rolled her eyes when I said I was maxing out my retirement instead of booking a vacation. So I called my friend Mike, who's an accountant and also the kind of guy who doesn't sugarcoat anything, and I asked him, if someone gave you a checklist of financial requirements before considering you relationship material, what would you think? And he didn't hesitate. He said, she's treating you like an ATM with feelings run. And that should have been enough, but it wasn't, because love makes you stupid, or maybe it just makes you hopeful. And part of me wanted there to be some explanation that made this okay. But then I did something that even I'll admit was a little obsessive. I made a spreadsheet of our share expenses in the last 6 months, every dinner, every movie, every bill color-coded, and the result punched me in the gut. I'd spent over $24,000 on us. She contributed less than $4,000, and that was being generous. And then I checked her company's LinkedIn page, because something about the career transition story wasn't sitting right. And there it was. She'd been promoted to senior coordinator 3 months earlier, meaning while I was covering her $900 rent and stressing about my savings. She was making more money than before, and she hadn't told me. When she came over a few days later talking excitedly about furniture shopping for our future house, I stopped her and said we needed to talk. And when I showed her the spreadsheet, her entire demeanor shifted. She got defensive immediately, asked how I knew about her promotion, said it wasn't a big raise anyway, refused to say how much, and accused me of attacking her instead of stepping up as a man. And when I asked where the money was going if she wasn't struggling like she said, she snapped that it was none of my business, which was wild considering she'd made my salary her business with her requirements list. And that's when the tears started. Not sad tears, angry tears. The kind meant to flip the script. She said I was cruel, that I was calling her a gold digger without saying the words, that a real man wouldn't make his girlfriend feel like garbage for wanting stability. And I said something that felt scary and freeing at the same time. A real partner wouldn't lie about their income while taking thousands of dollars and calling their boyfriend inadequate. And she grabbed her things and slammed the door so hard my neighbor texted to ask if everything was okay. And after that, my phone exploded. Her text went from accusing me to demanding an apology to suddenly being sorry and wanting to talk. Then her mom showed up at my apartment unannounced to tell me how devastated her daughter was and how I should be grateful she was even considering me, how her biological clock was ticking, how I was wasting her time. And when she asked for $2,000 to help with Emily's stress-related credit card bills, I actually laughed out loud, which apparently made me selfish and heartless. And after that, Emily took the breakup public, before we'd even officially ended things, posting about knowing her worth and not settling for men who can't handle a woman with standards. And honestly, that saved me the conversation. I changed my streaming passwords, told my landlord she wasn't allowed in the building anymore, boxed up her stuff, and told her to pick it up, which turned into another circus with her showing up with her mom, sister, and best friend like a legal entourage to retrieve a toothbrush and some clothes while accusing me of hiding her expensive things. And I held my ground, wouldn't let them inside, and repeated calmly, take what's here or leave it. And 2 days after that, my bank called about a fraud alert. Someone had tried to charge $3,200 at a jewelry store using my credit card number. A card I'd replaced, a card she'd had access to months earlier for emergencies. And I filed a police report because at that point it wasn't about money. It was about boundaries. And when her mom called to tell me I was ruining her daughter's life over a mistake, I said, using someone's credit card without permission is fraud. And that word seemed to short-circuit her entire narrative. After that came the unhinged emails. The payment plan offering $200 a month for money she now admitted she owed. The sister showing up at my building demanding I drop the police report. The accusations that I was vindictive. And then the social media pivot where Emily reinvented herself as a survivor of financial abuse, posting vague stories, then building an entire website about toxic relationships with donation link asking for $15,000 to rebuild her life, which would have been funny if it wasn't so surreal. And through all of it, I stayed quiet, locked down my accounts, installed a camera, let The consequences play out, and they did. The police case wrapped up quickly, misdemeanor, community service, fine. No permanent record as she completed it. Her mom sent me a bill for lawyer fees, which I ignored, and eventually the noise died down. Life got quiet again, and that's when it hit me how tense I'd been for months without realizing it. How much mental space I'd been given to someone who saw me as a means to an end. And now, months later, I'm still single, still driving my reliable car, still making my perfectly fine salary, still living in my modest apartment. And I'm okay, more than okay, because I didn't lose a partner. I escaped a transaction disguised as love. I learned that the right person won't hand you a requirements list or lie while taking your money or measure your worth in square footage and salary brackets. The right person builds with you, not off you. And for the first time in a long time, I feel free.